Hello, hello. This is Aage here with the Universal Consciousness Show, and I have Diana over in Germany with me. So I want to welcome all of you to another hour of truth, information, knowledge, and mystery that you are hard-pressed to find anywhere else except right here on the Universal Consciousness Show. And for those of you who like to listen to this show again, you can find it in many different places, including Facebook, many other places on the internet, on the social media, and also I have it archived. I'm archiving the shows at two different websites, and one of them is www.aage-nost, and look under blogs of mystery and you will find it. And also we are archiving it now at www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And I'd recommend that you keep a paper and a pen handy, because you just might find something that you may want to write down, because especially today you want to take notes, because we're going to talk about some very interesting things, and I'll give you that in a second. And if you know somebody that has no access to the internet right now, but they have a telephone, give them this phone number and they can call in and listen live. And that is 701-719-9704. And also join us on the YouTube channel at Universal Consciousness Show. And we also have a group on Facebook. That's also the Universal Consciousness Show. So we have not promoted that one very much, but we're starting to do it now. So please join us, and you will find some of the more interesting stuff that we put on there. And also you'll find some of our video documentaries and books there on the website. So that will be for your enjoyment. Now, absolutely, get yourself a piece of paper and a pen, because you want to take notes. Because we're going to talk about some of the things today that we talked about a month ago. And this is the second half of that show, so to speak, because we talked about universal success principles and what the super successful people of the world do. And that gets a little interesting, because they don't do like other people do. They are, and they think different. So in that regard, I want to ask you a question. And you take at least 24 hours to think about that question. And that is, and here it comes. What would you start tomorrow morning if you knew you could not fail? Think about that one. And especially for those of you who are in business or want to be in business or just want to be more successful at what you do. Think about this. Let me ask you also, how much would you pay to have a billionaire come and sit with you and help you plan and design your future? Think on that one. Because this book here that I'm going to talk about, that's called Universal Success Principles and How Billionaires Think, will be able to do that for you. Because in this book, we have the principles, we have the habits, and the mind techniques, nuts and bolts of what many of the billionaires and the super successful people are doing and how they're thinking. You will find it there. I wrote this book probably about 5 years ago now, and there are I don't think there is a single week where I do not get an email from somebody that's saying he loved what was in it because it changed the way he was doing things and he got something very, very good out of it for themselves. There's two sections to it. The first section is the nuts and the bolts on how the super successful people think and what they do. And then the second half is explaining why the first half works so well. So take that to heart and go to either one of the websites that I mentioned, www.aage-nost.com will be a good one to start. You will find it there, so you can have a look. And the thing is that there is hundreds of books out there that's showing how to become a millionaire, but I only have found one that really teaches you how to get in the mind of the super successful and wealthy people. And that's the one I just mentioned. And super successful people, they sometimes seem to be creating miracles out of absolutely seemingly nothing. How do they do that? Well, it's because they do not do like the masses are doing. They do not think like the masses or act like the masses. They plan the future and they remember the future. They're remembering what they planned for the future in detail, colorful images, and so on. So they already created in their mind before they start doing it. So we should think about that because a lot of us spend more time planning our vacation than how we plan our life. There's something wrong with that. It's another principle that you should think about when it comes to success, because nobody really understands what success. We think we know what it is, but maybe there is a flaw to the thinking. We think that billionaires are successful people, right? Well, maybe not. Think about this. A multi-billionaire can be losing $1 million a day. Is he still successful? Well, he's still a billionaire, but is he still successful? Now, you think on that one. So, well, I like to get into this here, Diana, where we talked about some of the things last time, and I think I got about halfway into it. Isn't that about right?
Yes, you were announcing the principles that you also wrote in your book, and I think you were about to half of them or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think I got into, there were one principle here that actually seems to come back on me ever so often, and that is that when, well, I'll tell you though, I want to mention a few of them as we go through, because some of the people listening now, they did not hear the first one, but they can go to the website and listen to the first one because there's much more details there. And I'll mention a few of the principles here that we talked about last time, because the super successful people, they have figured it out that there's two things that go to the bank. One of them is money, and the other one is goodwill. And they have equal value at different times. And they find many ways to express that. And also, they create a mastermind group. And that is based on the principle that when two or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind that has the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other. And let's say that we got a couple of 100,000 people listening to this show now. Multiply that by a couple of 100,000. And you get about 4 million people. So then that's the mind power of what we are doing right now. Now, successful people also create an inner circle for advice and association. And they brainstorm with their mastermind group and the inner circle at least once per week and often just once a day. And they stay away from negative people like there was the plague. That includes family. And they're constantly expanding their mind by mind development courses and reading and listening to uplifting material and other people's success stories and so on. That is very important to them. And they always read a lot. They welcome challenges because they know that from challenges, great things emerge. And they're kind and fair and honest with people who depend on them. And also, of course, on people that they depend on. And they're not afraid to take chances on favorable, calculated risks. Now, there's a word, calculated risks. There are stupid risks, there are all kinds of risks out there, but it has to look good both to the mind and the heart. And they spend time alone in meditation and quiet contemplation, listening to the higher guidance for knowledge and wisdom. And another thing, they love what they do. Remember the saying, find something you do and you'll never have to work a day in your life. And I've been pretty lucky. I've been, for the most, able to do that. They have a very strong belief in the power of the mind. And this is something that not everybody, not all of them practice these principles. But the ones that will continue are growing and becoming more and more successful, creating more and more in the marketplace, creating more jobs, create more advantages for other people working with them. They are usually using not necessarily all of these principles, but many of them. They know also that you don't have to know everything to start something. Once you start something, you'll figure out how to work it and do it on the way to the accomplishment. And they create a strong emotional dream of what they want to accomplish. And they visualize it in colorful images and intention. And they place that in the future for a time-coded event to work towards. And that was very well explained in the last radio show we did on this. So you should listen to it there because there's so much more. And when there's a challenge, they sit down and brainstorm the challenge with their mastermind group and definitely with their inner circle. And they analyze the challenge. And they break the challenges up into smaller parts because it's much easier to solve a small part than the whole thing and the big thing at the same time. And once they understand what the challenge is and the different parts of it is, they don't think much about the challenge anymore. They bury themselves in the problem-solving process because they discovered that if you focus on problems, you get more problems. If you focus on solutions, you get more solutions. And also, they are almost never realistic. Because in their book, there is no such thing as can't. You got to remember, the word realistic, where does that word come from? Well, it comes from to realize. If you take the word realize and you sound it out, break it up, it sure sounds like real lies to me. Think about that. Do we want to be involved with real lies? Well, yeah, that's maybe where we're going if we do what everybody else does. And a lot of times also super successful people, they have business plans too, but they hardly ever follow them. A solid business plan that have to be followed, that is for people who borrow the money to create the project. Because then the banker is going to want to tie you down to the business plan. Maybe that's why 4 out of 5 businesses fail in the first 5 years. Think on that one too, because a business plan is just should be a guide only. Because remember what we said before, you don't have to know everything to start something. The super successful people, if they finance it themselves, they discover brilliant things while they are working on it, and they implement that where there may not have been any place for it whatsoever in a business plan. So think about that. And they always think out of the box. And they are very often unpredictable. See, leaders are also visionaries. And these super successful people, they are leaders. And they keep a small voice recorder with them just about everywhere they go. And I do this. And whenever I come up with a brilliant idea, I grab the voice recorder and I talk a little bit into it, and I give some keywords and stuff that I will remember the concept with later on, so then I can write it down later on when it comes off the recorder. And when they get these ideas, they speak enough of it in there so they don't lose the overall concept. Because usually what comes to you in a thought in the middle of something else is it's mostly conceptual. Details come later. And I've seen people do this, and I've been very lucky. I've been on first name with 3 billionaires, and I've been able to talk to them a lot and learn, especially one. Oops, what was that? Something fell down. Okay. When these people talk, then I found it very much to my advantage to listen. And I've also seen one of them that I was able to associate quite a bit with. He had this little recording, the tape recorder in his pocket, and ever so often he grabbed the tape recorder, he'd walk off by himself, and he'd talk for 2 minutes, and he comes back. And that's where he preserved his memory of ideas that he implemented into projects that he was doing. They also know that they're being watched every hour of the day, so they're very careful with how they conduct themselves. Because they assume they're being watched 24 hours a day. Well, they're sleeping, right? But somebody is watching a videotape of them somewhere, anything on YouTube, or listening to a speech that they did or something like that. There is stuff that they can expect to happen 24 hours a day. That's why they watch how they conduct themselves. They watch their thoughts because they become their words. They watch their words because they become their action. They watch their actions because that becomes their habits. They watch their habits because that becomes their character. They watch their character, because that becomes their destiny. And boy, every one of us should think more on that one. And they do also quite a bit, and mostly what they know how to do to stay healthy. It is often the wrong thing, but they do try. And if one of them end up with cancer, some of them, they go and do chemotherapy, which is one of the most stupidest things that anybody could do, because there are so many other remedies that could, according to medical research placed in both in Lancet over in England and in the New England Journal of Medicine, explain that there are stuff you got in your cupboards in the kitchen that could solve that problem. So they need to expand their mind in that area, because they're not very often not very good at that. But of course, people listening to this show on this platform, I think we are well educated in that area also, and we know a little better. They know that the success for the next day starts the night before, or the day before, or the week before, the month before. So they start planning and visualizing the successful outcome of the next day in advance. And that is very important. Let's say that you know you have, let's say tomorrow you have a very important meeting in somebody's office. You know where it is. You know what the guy looked like that you're going to meet with. Do you know what the subject to be discussed is? The night before, or even further back than that, you sit down and visualize that meeting. You just see yourself driving up, walking into the building, going into the person's office, sitting down there with them. You visualize and work through your vocabulary of what you want to tell them. And then you visualize and listen what their answer will be like. And of course, the answer that they come back with is agreeable to what you said. Then you put colorful images into this, put love into it, because set it up in your mind. So what you are suggesting to them will be good and work to the advantage and a benefit of a lot of people, or at least more than 3 people. And then, once you are done visualizing this, consider it done and successful. Tell yourself, so be it. And when you the next day go to that meeting, walk into the meeting, sit down, rehearse in your mind what you did the night before. Tell the person your sales pitch or whatever that you wanted to tell them. And then visualize him coming back with the answer. Many words, but the final concept resulting from the answer will be favorable to you and the other people it will benefit. That make any sense, Diana?
Yes, I will tell you later my opinion.
Okay. All right. And this is what a lot of them do. But also, there are some of the super wealthy people that do not do it. And very often also, fortunes are lost because of bad habits, especially if they never had the habits in the first place. There's a concept in business that whoever builds the business, when they hand it off to the heirs, the heirs do not have the same burn and the desire and the habits and the principle as the one that founded the business. So very often, the ones that take it over, they lose it or the business declines. And that's why I have noticed the President of the United States is a very successful man. He has his family involved in the business. They are, his daughter and his son, they're very involved in the business. They know everything their father knows. So most of what they do create jobs and create opportunities and create wealth for the people involved. So when Donald is gone, that business will go on successful. I am totally convinced of that. Also, they reflect on the day they had with gratitude, appreciation, and they give thanks. They also are thankful for things that didn't work right because they learned from it. Remember Edison when he came up with a light bulb? He experimented almost 3,000 times with different things for the filament in the light bulb. And they all did not work. They failed, is what most people called it. But Edison, he said, no, that didn't fail. I just found 3,000 ways that didn't work. Failure does not exist in the mind of those people. When they go home, they also disconnect from work, except for emergencies where nobody else can take care of it. And they spend quality time with their family. And remember, quality always over quantity. Because quantity, that can be sitting at home, just watching TV or a horror movie or something like that. That's not quality time. Talking, spending time in discussion, personal interaction with family, that's quality time. Going somewhere together when you don't think about business or anything else, just family. In the past, I have been a big sinner of that, and I have paid the price. They try to get most of their work done in 8 hours, except for special projects, of course, and things that has to be done. In the beginning of a business, very often you probably will end up doing more than 8 hours, and it could be necessary. But after you get established and then you find other people to do some of the stuff with you, then you delegate and teach them everything you know on the subject, and then step back so you can be the mind behind it all. And the people that you work with, they are an extension of that mind. And give them full access to you for the different things that they need to have access to. And they plan the evening so they can get enough sleep. And they adjust for sleep cycles. Sleep cycles, that's a new term that a lot of people don't understand. But a simple way to understand it, have you ever, let's say you set the alarm for 7 o'clock in the morning someday, and the alarm goes off and you feel great. And you figure, well, gosh, I don't really need to get up before 7:15, so I'll take another 15 minutes. Then you go to sleep for 15 minutes and you get up 15 minutes later, you feel like you were half dead and you're like warmed over something or other, and you feel lousy. Why is that? That's because the extra 15 minutes brought you into a down cycle in your mind. Because every 3 hours, the mind puts chemicals into the bloodstream that shuts down your system. Wherever you wake up and you feel great, that's at the very top of the sleep cycle where all the or most of the chemicals are washed out of the blood. And right after that, the brain puts more chemicals in the blood again, and you go down into deep sleep, or the systems try to shut down. And I realize we are at the bottom of the hour here, so I think we probably should take a 3-minute break or so, and then we will be back with the Universal Consciousness Show talking about universal success principles and how the super successful people think and work.
Open Eyes seeks out the heart of matters, looking for explanations in places that most other radio hosts refuse to go. No subject is forbidden, and nothing remains hidden. Listen to Open Eyes on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Open minds, open hearts, open eyes.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you.
Have you ever heard of Audible? Audible is a website with hundreds of thousands of audiobooks. They're all high quality, easy to listen to, and, best of all, if you take advantage of a special deal that we've worked out for you, you can get one for free. That's right, a free audiobook of your choice in any genre, simply by going to audibletrial.com/openeyes and signing up for the free trial. It's simple to do, and it would support the shows that we bring to you, and hey, you get a free book out of the whole thing. So why not take advantage of it today? Go to audibletrial.com/openeyes and sign up for the trial. Brothers at Arms is not about being militant, though there is a time and place where that is necessary. Brothers at Arms is not about arguing, though there are times where things may get heated. Brothers at Arms is not about who is right or wrong. There are many sides to each issue. Brothers at Arms is about exploring those sides, about dealing with the issues facing us today, about coming together and, through opposing views, understanding the deeper truths that are in the middle. Join Ira Robinson and Joe Long each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LateNightInTheMidlands.com as these Brothers at Arms discuss what you need to know. Brothers at Arms, it's about time.
Hello, and we are back with the Universal Consciousness Show, and we are talking about universal success principles and how billionaires think. And that's where I suggest people will go to our website, and we will, I may want to adjust my volume a little bit here. That's probably a little loud. Okay. And I would suggest that you go to the website of www.aage-nost mindofbillionaires.com, and you can have a look at the book there, because this book has many of the things that business owners should know in it. It will change some of the way you think and maybe some of the things you do. So, you know, Diana, we were talking before about a lot of the planning that we do for the future. We can create great things in our mind, and then it doesn't happen right away. Have you ever done that?
Of course I had. Everyone had that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because we have this wild card. The wild card is time. And a lot of times we plan well and we program well on it. And I have done that. There's a major project that I have been programming on, and it's going to happen because we are subject to the wild card. And the wild card is outside of our physical and mental control, because we may have made agreements to do some things before we came and entered physical reality, or we created this body we're walking around in. And those agreements are hard to get around. They kind of get stuck to us. Unless, of course, we know what they are, and there are ways to find that out too by going on the other side of the veil and have a look. But unless we know how we can change the agreements, they're hard to get around. So one of the agreements could be that we are supposed to learn patience. And that's why when we plan something for the future, don't just try it for a week and a half and that's it. Well, that didn't work, and then quit. We got to keep doing it and doing it. If it is worthwhile to do planning on, to make changes in our life or other people's lives, it is also worth keep at it, keep planning, keep visualizing it. And that's where a lot of people fail. If they quit thinking about it, it goes away, because science has now found we live in a mind-created universe. And what that means is that whatever we allow to dwell in our mind the most is what we're going to have in our life. So we should be mindful of that. We should think about, what do I want to happen in the future? That is what we should be thinking about. Not what went wrong last week, or oh, the misery that happened this morning, or anything like that. That just let that go. That's the past, and you're not going there. It's already done with. So I guess that goes back to Winston Churchill's speech at one of the universities in England. They had him booked for a speech for an hour. He came in, went up on the podium, stood and looked at the audience for about a minute before he said anything. And then he said, never, never, ever, never, ever, never, never, ever give up. Then he turned around and walked off the podium. Of course, I could imagine what the audience looked like afterward. They were looking at each other and said, what was that? But I think he conveyed the message that was probably more important than what he could have said speaking for an hour. That is my opinion. I want to mention a couple of more things that some of these successful people do. And they watch videos, they listen to speeches, and read material from successful people to get their mind in the right state. They associate with other successful people, and not necessarily in person, but at distance. When you read somebody's book, you associate with them. When you watch their video, you associate with them at a distance. And that helps you get in their mind. They also spend time visualizing a successful outcome of the next day, the next week, and next month by planning it. Mental planning and visualization of the successful outcome. They have worked out positive affirmations that they say over and over and over and over again during the day, and especially right before they go to sleep, because then they are already in a semi-hypnotic state, because the mind is slowed down, your brain waves are deep down in the alpha range where all the magic is, and they talk to themselves. And when there's something they really want, they never take no for an answer until they have at least asked 3 times. When you talk to salespeople, you will hear that. You'll be surprised how many sales they make when they ask the 3rd time and the people told them no twice before. They're also very generous and donate to many worthy causes and many worthy people. Remember this thing that I mentioned first about there are 2 things that go to the bank. One is money and one is goodwill. That ties directly into that one. They've also found that when successful people have found that they work on the universal success principles, the details seems to fall into place by themselves. So I didn't write this book for the masses, so to speak, but I wrote it for the few who like to do great things for themselves and for mankind. And the book is in 2 sections. Enjoy both of them. And when it comes to the power of the mind, Diana, we were talking beforehand, we're going to do a show on healing, basically on healing alone on that show. And I think maybe next month we should probably do that on the first Friday of the month. Do you think that will work for us?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's do that. And we're going to talk about one guy that I want to talk a little bit about, and then Diana will explain what she was able to do. And this one man that I want to mention is Joe Dispenza. Now, he broke his neck. He was a paraplegic. And the medical establishment had a very bad solution for him. And he said, I don't want that solution. He went home. 10 weeks later, he was up and walking again because he visualized the spinal cord growing together and the bones repairing themselves, and they did. And we're going to go into some of how that actually happened, because this is powerful. That's the ultimate power of the mind. And also Diana was very ill, and she healed herself also by the way she was thinking. So that's going to be an interesting show.
But if you are talking about Joe Dispenza, I would like to interfere a tiny bit with your previous sayings, because normally I'm a very lovely person, but now I have to step out of my lovely person and ask you a question.
Okay.
Because you are talking about successful people and billionaires, and I'm very, very sure that these people, they don't grow up in families like I had, for instance, that implemented the mental programs in my brain since I was born that tells me every moment that money is evil and you have to struggle for every penny in your life, and you are not good enough, and look at that one, he's much better than you, and you are not worthy. And it's the list can continue, and I think everyone can put something, it can add something on this list. And according to neuroscience, and precisely to Joe Dispenza, we are responsible for our experiences, and we are literally the creators of our reality. And as I started to go deeper in this knowledge, I understood that a lot of bad experience do not exist in reality, but only in our minds. And we are the creators of all this experience. So we were programmed to think in a certain way, to believe in certain things, to react in a certain way, and so on, since we were born. And this is all depending on the mental programs that are implemented in your mind. And I also know from Joe Dispenza that we have around 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And from this one, we are only aware of 2,000 of them. And the rest of them, they are running in our subconscious mind. That means literally that 90% of our thoughts are the same as yesterday and leading us to the same choices as yesterday. And as we know, same choices produce same behavior, and same behavior cause same emotion. And every time when you behave according to the same patterns, you create the same reality. So actually we keep working the brain in the same combination, same patterns every day. And this is called the mind. And we are so in this way we are reproducing the same level of mind every day, and that becomes our own personality, our identity. And this is what Joe Dispenza tells us. And the question is, how do we change this? Because there's something to do. You are talking about successful people, and I don't know what is in their mind and what kind of programs they have, mental programs they have in their minds that undermining their reality. I suppose they were not learned, and they were not their brain was not implemented with bad mental programs like the other people, because that is why from the whole planet we have a very, very tiny percent of billionaires. I think it's 1%, or I don't even know how many are there.
Very much smaller than that.
Yes. And the question is, what should the other 99% of the planet do in order to change these mental programs?
Well, that is what's actually in the book. And I explained that just a little while ago. I mentioned you can associate with successful people at a distance, because there's a proven fact that you will become like the people you associate with. I was very lucky when I grew up. My mom told me you can be anything you want. It's up to you to figure out what it is. And that's I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about that until I decided that I was going to leave the farm back in Norway. That's when I started thinking about it. But there you go, just like you said, it was probably running around in my subconscious, those words, I can do anything I want. And that may have been why I had the guts to leave the country of my birth over in Norway and come to the United States, because otherwise I don't think I would. There were so many. One of the biggest lies out there that people are told when they're younger, oh, work hard, son, and you're going to be successful in life. No, hard work does not make you successful. Smart work does. And hard and smart can even make it better. And look at a computer program that comes up with something brilliant. He probably have to work around the clock for 2 months in order to put it together. That's the hard work part. But he created it out of smarts, so to speak. So we can learn from others, and we have these programs running around in our subconscious, limitations and bad stuff down there, but we can bury that by positive thoughts and good desires, especially emotions and love laid on top of it. That will actually, there we go back to Ho'oponopono, where they say that if you have a bad mental program or a habit, love it. Fill it with bright white light of love, and love will get into the thought. It will gut there's particles of thought and put light in them, and the negative vibration goes away, and it becomes positive. So we can listen to other people, listen to their recordings, their videos, and we can associate. The more we do of that, the more the negative programming will be washed out.
Yes, I can also tell you about my own understanding. That is for every person in this life. There is a time when you come to these awaken moments, to these aha moments, where you understand something. You already heard it tons of times, but you didn't know how to interpret it.
That's me.
Yeah, really. Because we already heard again and again. Personally, I heard again and again about the theory of Copenhagen, debated between 1925 and 1929 by Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg. And this theory said that the act of the observer of measuring a physical system will produce certain results, and much more. Physical systems generally do not have definite properties prior to being measured. In other words, we as observers, we can influence the observed system. This brought me to the understanding, of course, very, very late, after I heard it tons of times, that by simply observing a situation, we are the creators of that situation. And the question is, can you observe a future with colorful details and elevated emotions as if it already happened? Well, if yes, then you've just created the future you want. So the point is, let's just not only listen and think that we are evaluated and evolved. After you hear 10 times the same story, you have to think about, why is this theory so important? Because that tells us that when we observe a moment, this moment is actually created by us, by our interference with the system we observe. And this is the way we are creating our reality. And in the moment when you can be able to connect with a future point that didn't happen yet, but you can leave it as if it already happened. Also Jesus told us that, for me, Jesus was the most evolved soul that came to the earth. And he told us, when you desire something, just feel it as if it already happened, and you will get it.
Yeah.
And this is really exactly what neuroscience and quantum mechanics told us after 2000 years after he said that. By focusing on a future event that didn't happen yet, but you can already feel it with joyful emotions, with elevated emotion, and put colorful details in this. In this moment, you are just creating the future. And
Absolutely.
this will remove, I think, in my opinion, this will remove our mental programs that are subminating our reality. This is what I think, and this was my aha moment. And I never thought about this until now, and I started to work at that. And also, in the same time, when I had these moments, I saw some documentary that they are talking about imagery. That means that in the moment when you can imagine a future moment, you should put all the details in it and just make a picture where you put all the details that you want to be like, like the kids. The kids, they have an unlimited imagination. So they have no barriers. They have no limits when they think. So be like them. Have no limits when you put details in your future moment. Put everything as in a picture, in a picture with the imagery. So just draw things that you have to have, that you want to have. Put pictures of yourself where you were very happy. Put it. Also, neuroscience discovered that we can connect to a certain moment from our life when we were happy. And if you do that, let's say you want to lose weight, and you can connect to a moment where you was in a certain weight, which is your ideal one. And they discovered that the brain will connect to this moment, and the brain will produce the chemistry that will bring you in that moment. So your body can be created by your own wishes. If you are focused on what you wish, and first you have to discover what you don't want, and what you don't want, and who you don't want to be anymore. Just drop it.
Yeah, just exclude it. Absolutely.
Yes. So that is what I discovered, because you stay there 10 years and you read and you watch, and in the end you have to you have to jump to a conclusion.
Yeah, and God will give you the nut, but he will not crack it. We got to do our part. We have to do the visualization, and we have to do the intention. Intention is more than a thought. It's an energy that we place in the future, and we draw on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, you're so more eloquent and brilliant in what you explained there about this than what I can do. So I'm glad you did, because this closes it up for us. And I think people understood better now after what you told them about neuroscience, because I didn't go into that much. I've been accused to be too much in my head, and I think I probably am. And that's where you're able to explain it better, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I think we got 2 minutes left of the show here. And what you were on a roll there, Diana. What do you have for a last message to people? I want to put you on the spot here. The last message to people.
I think that it's very important that anytime when we have to make a decision, we have to be sure that we take the decision from a place of love and not from a place of fear. Because there are only two emotions that the universe will understand: fear or love. And all the other ones, they are derivated from fear or from love. So take care and be sure that any decision that you make in any situation, it is coming from love and not from fear. Whether it's a career or relationship or whatever it is, take the decision from love. How can you make that? You just put the question. You are in the moment when you have to do a decision. You just put the question, what would love do in this moment? And you somehow will get the answer.
Excellent. Excellent. And we are then down to the end of the show, and we will be back next week, and we will have a wonderful guest for you, and we will not tell you who it is, so you just got to come back and listen. So I will We will talk to you soon. And until then, take care of yourself.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.